Gone Racin, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
And welcome back in, everybody, to Gone Racin. As we now have a new intro, we don't even need to introduce ourselves unless you don't know the difference between Brendan and Jeff.
I guess that's a good point. Should we have little name plates in front of us so you know which one is which?
They put it on the screen for us. If you're
on the screen. You're
right.
right.
There,
you're right. And if you're listening, then you probably know the difference in my southern twang and your West Coast voice.
I can give me a little southern twang in there.
Well, you've been down south enough. You lived in North Carolina for a
Moonshiner
while.
Master Distillers last night. I'm just saying. I got the
I was
southern.
going to say the guy that owns the moonshine company is talking to the guy who grew up in the South.
Go
figure.
We got it right. Welcome to Professionally Unprofessional. Jeff Motley and Brendan Gaughan, Gone Racin. Mr. Motley, last week we kicked off our season finally. Real bets, real action. Daytona 500, and a guy that you and I always say is a threat on their super speedways. He did. Now, we always we give him a hard time. We will be honest and say we do give.
We have a few nicknames. Some we can say on the air. Some
we do give Ricky a hard time some days. But Ricky Stenhouse getting it done at Daytona in, by the way, the longest Daytona 500 in history.
Yeah, had the overtimes, the two overtimes. Ricky Stenhouse, he's such a great super speedway racer. We've seen him win at Talladega, Daytona. Came in as a 30-1 favorite, a huge underdog, I guess, if you will. I mean, we had some favorites that were coming in at like 10 and 12-1, so he came in 30-1. And we've been seeing this. We saw this last year with Austin Cindric. We saw it the year before with Michael McDowell. That seems to be what Daytona's producing, are guys that are long shots to win the race.
Well, I mean, everybody's a long shot there, as you always say. Top three was plus 850. I went on the Chevy route on my top threes, and he was not one of the Chevys I picked in my Chevy Brigade for the top three, so that really pissed me off.
That last wreck was very detrimental to all of us.
That last wreck crushed us all, by the way. The Gone Racin, everybody, that last wreck, we all text each other.
And there are those of us that are still trying to figure out why Kyle Larson was scored in front of Bubba Wallace.
That one on the show
I still
today.
don't understand it, but
Group F, he was plus 275. The Chevy, of course, plus 120. But how about this? We always talk about it, Jeff. Odds to win the championship. You and I said it. This is if you can pick that guy, well, it was Ricky. 500-1 before the race, 40-1 after the race.
Well, and you knew that was going to happen
Yep.
if somebody came in and did that, because the one thing you pretty much know now is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is going to be in the playoffs. So you go into the season and you're thinking, well, there's probably almost little shot Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is even going to make the playoffs. Well, now, guess what? We got 25 races left in the regular season.
And number of winners in the season, all those things.
And he's virtually clinched himself a spot in the playoffs. So 40-1, and you know what? If he can manage to run well at a track that is not Daytona or Talladega, those odds are going to drop even more.
Yes, they will. As we said, longest Daytona 500 in history. Just got to give a little stat out on that. Wyatt was really excited about making sure we pumped that one, apparently. 530 miles with 2 overtimes. 52 lead changes. How about this? Karina gave us some great stats today. 52 lead changes. And actually, I knew this, but I didn't realize it was something that really to talk about. But the Woods brothers were the last single-car team. Remember when Trevor Bayne won a bunch of years ago? JTG is a legit single-car team.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, and I'm going to just be personal here for just a second. I have known Tad and
Great
Jody
people.
for a long
Great
time.
people.
One of my best.
And don't forget Brad Doherty.
Well, and
Little
Brad Doherty,
basketball
one of
loving
my
there.
best friends growing up, Stacy Compton, started his Cup career driving for Tad and Jody Geschechter. They're amazing, amazing people. And you're right, Brad Doherty, first African-American team owner to win the Daytona 500. Unfortunately, Brad was at the race, and his eyes were bothering him from some surgery he had, and he left before the race was over. So Brad wasn't even there to see it, but a great basketball player Brad was, and now turned into a great team owner.
Went to the wrong school, though. Let's go to the results for Daytona 500.
Both of you are not very good this year. So. That we'd be talking about the Tar Heels and the Hoyas, but as a Hokie, I can't say much because we're not very good either. So
yeah, we're gonna just go to the top 10 here. What we talk about on our show, Daytona 500 results was, of course, we had Ricky Stenhouse was 30-1 plus 850. Joey Logano plus 400 was one of the favorites before the race and looked really good all day. Seabell plus 700.
Best super speedway finish ever for Christopher Bell, not counting him winning on the Daytona road course. So at Daytona, Talladega, best finish ever for Christopher Bell.
Only Toyota to take it through that wreck. And then how about some of these names, though, that was really kind of cool? Chris Buescher, another great run for RFK with him there. The Dinger coming out, starting his new Cup career again in 6th. Of course, Suarez, Blaney, Chastain. But how about we got to give Vegas love. It's on the screen. We got to give Vegas love. Our guy Riley Herbst, baby, Way to go, Riley.
How about Riley? First ever Cup Series race in a one.
You ready for a stat
that's
on Riley
amazing.
Herbst? He is the first driver in NASCAR history to finish top 10 in his first ARCA West, ARCA East, Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and Cup Series race.
That sounds like a Larry McNugget.
That is
Where
a big
did you
Larry
get that?
McNugget. And Riley Herbst, only driver in history to ever have a top 10 in his first start in all of those.
Where'd you dig that one up?
Don't you worry, man. I'm a stat master.
Did Riley or did you ride back with Troy after
No,
the race?
I only
you
rode
came
there
back.
with,
You
I only
went
rode
to
there with his
yeah.
daddy. I didn't get to ride back.
Yeah,
I
full
left early.
disclosure, you got to hang with the Herbst on the ride to
Hey,
Daytona
listen,
from Vegas.
it's the Vegas connection. Vegas gets another top 10 right there. I mean, come on, Riley.
That's all right. I gave him money last night because I ate at one of the restaurants last
I
night.
gave him money this morning. I stopped for fuel this morning. So, way to go, Riley. Got to give a little love on Veasan here. I mean, come on, we're the Vegas show.
Thrill for Riley.
Got to
Absolutely.
throw some love his way.
Absolutely.
Sonny D getting the top 10 there. Way to go, buddy. That was cool.
Yeah, and one other guy to mention, a lot of the drivers were talking about the guy you have to watch out for on super speedways who is sneaky good is Chris Buescher. I heard a lot of drivers saying that before the race. Chris Buescher coming in fourth, and that team ran really well. Keselowski led a lot of laps in that race. In fact, I think he led the most laps in that race. I know why it's all fired up.
That is correct, and I was heartbroken.
He did lead the most laps,
Yes.
right? I believe he did.
And I was
There he is,
heartbroken.
42 laps.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I know Wyatt was on the edge of his seat since he is the president of the Brad Keselowski
Cool.
fan club.
And how about this, though? RFK, 42 laps with Brad, 32 laps with Chris. So they by far dominated the Daytona 500. So great job, RFK.
But
Good
this
start.
week is when we start finding out if RFK is for real and who else is for real.
Yes,
for
as
that
we all
matter.
know, the real racing, we don't like to say Daytona's not real racing. Let me rephrase that. But the actual racing that we're going to see more often starts this weekend. And, of course, the race is the Paula Casino 400 out in Fontana.
Where is the Paula Casino? I've never heard of that.
It's south of the Speedway still.
Oh, is it like right there in that
No,
San Bernardino
no.
County, or is it like out near Palm Springs, or what are we talking about?
It's south near San Diego.
Oh, all right. I was just curious.
And then, of course, we come out to your home, Mr. Motley, the South Point not the South Point 400, wrong race. Looking at your shirt, not the screen. Pennzoil 400.
Or looking at your shirt.
There you go.
We didn't. And by the way, we didn't text each other about our wardrobe today.
We have very limited wardrobe we're allowed to wear without the jacket. Once again, professionally unprofessional. Then United Rentals Work United 500 at Phoenix, which, as we all know, is a big one because that's the championship round. The Ambetter 400 at Atlanta, Georgia. And then Circuit of the Americas, go to a road course right off the bat out in Austin, Texas. Really fun start to this season. And remember, this is going to be the last race. They've been saying that for a couple of years now. Let's put an asterisk.
But this one is going to be the last
This one's
race.
going to be the last race at the famous 2-mile oval of California Speedway. And I got to tell you, it's Sunday, 3:30 Eastern time. This is the last race. They're taking this race, and they say they're going to make it a half-mile short track because they've been doing so well at the Coliseum. They want to shrink it down. I'm bummed. Jeff, if there was one race that I would want to come out of retirement for.
Well,
This is
and
the
I've
only
heard
track.
that from a lot of drivers, how much they really enjoy racing on Auto Club Speedway there in Fontana. It should be pointed out, since you are sitting here on the set, that probably one of the most spectacular crashes of your career
it was
was
a good
in the Winston West. If anyone's ever seen it, go to YouTube and Google Brendan Gaughan Winston West crash at Fontana. And I believe it was in 1999 or 2000.
That would have been 99.
99
it
to
was
2000.
It was the Walker Evans car. Yeah.
You see Brendan spinning, and then next thing you know, all you see is a big fireball. And if I remember correctly, your dad was like either your mom or dad one was like, he's okay.
No. So I have a lot of eyebrow, like one, and I lost half of one in that because I used to wear my visor up and the fire blew through, and I looked really goofy with one. And no, the spotter. My dad called Billy Holbrook the Batman, my spotter, my whole life, and called the Batman and said, "Batman, what's going on?" Because California Speedway and the suites are right behind you. And Billy answered, "I don't know, Mr. Gaughan. I can't see through the fire and smoke. I don't know if he got out yet."
That's probably not exactly.
Let me give you the answer you don't want to give a parent to where their son is in a NASCAR crash with a big fireball.
I can't see him through the fireball.
Fire and smoke. I don't know if he got out yet.
Holy cow! I just watched that. That's a gnarly wreck.
Oh, you
man.
just watched
It
Yeah,
is a
oh my
gnarly wreck.
goodness.
And I didn't even know him then. I was like, oh, that's the dude from Vegas.
Yeah, that was the dude
Who
from
hit
Vegas.
you?
I'd only been here like a month.
Yeah, no, it was that was a big wreck.
Brendan, who hit you?
Scott Gaylord started the spin. He left reared me going in, and then I lost my brakes, so I came down the track, and then Gary Smith, I believe, was the guy that he got hit behind by somebody, and we went fuel cell to fuel cell, and that's what caused the 70-foot fireball. Looked like the mushroom cloud going up. And I'll never forget, Parnelli Jones always told me it'd be the day that you were going to retire is the day you have that crash. And he said, you'll know when that crash is when it happens. And he
You're
says,
like, I'm just getting started.
He says, and all you think of is the family business. And I'll never forget that if you watch that video to the end, I'm laying in the grass. I've got 2 broken ribs, got half an eyebrow. I'm in the grass, wind knocked on me. I go, oh, God, this hurts. And I looked over and I go, oh, that was a brand new car. We don't have many brand new cars. And I said to myself, dang it. I didn't think of the family business. I guess I still want to do this. And so, yeah, that was very early on. If I knew then what I knew now, I probably would have hung it up then. Anyway.
We digress now.
Yes. Let's get into how guys have done at Fontana Raceway. We got some track record stats, and there are some great track records, and it leads off with the man who has been great this season already for RCR, Kyle Busch. 23 races, 16 top 10s in 23 races. Pretty spectacular out there. And Kevin Harvick, good race. 28 races, 14 top 10s.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing for Kyle is he's going to be going back there for the first time in a Chevrolet, unless he may have run. Maybe he ran a race or two in Hendrick early on. But, I mean, as far as Kyle at the top of his game, always done in Toyota with a different team. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a different challenge going out there with his new team.
Kyle Larson, top 50% winning, 20% top winning, or 20% winning, 50% top 10. I mean, top 5. I mean, he's pretty spectacular.
And kind of a hometown track for Kyle Larson, too. In fact, I think he's the defending champion of that race.
All right, when we come back, guys, we're going to get into the odds to win the Pala Casino 400 and all the great stuff that me and Jeff give you on Gone Racin'.
This is Gone Racing, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
Welcome back into Gone Racing. 3, 2,
we're working on it.
Wait for it. Oh, there we go.
It's a good thing that Wyatt is not like a shot clock.
Hey, listen.
Well, I mean, last
year
I screwed him up on the time by accident.
Listen, hey, professionally unprofessional. Just we love it around here, okay?
Yeah, but
and yeah, Wyatt, he runs
paid,
that. Does he run the clock at the women's basketball
do.
games?
He gets paid more than we do. I don't know why. He can't make mistakes.
No. If I was running the clock, we would never have a shot clock. Every game, the shot clock doesn't work. Road, home, whatever it is, it drives me nuts. Sorry.
Hey, UNLV women's basketball. The announcer
and the most successful basketball team in this state. So.
Absolutely. But yeah, good thing he doesn't run the clock because it would be amusing.
Yeah, we should point out that he is an on-air radio play-by-play guy, and he gives his time to sit behind the glass for us.
We have the face for radio on front of the camera. We actually have a decent face for TV on the backside, but we just hide him back there because if he beats us, he's going to get fired again. So, I mean, after last year, he's lucky he made it through.
I'm not off to a good start right there.
Well, there we go.
Let's get to the odds to win. We did talk a little bit about the guys that were really good here, and there are a lot of guys that are good. And you said last year Kyle Larson, he is the reigning champion of this race. And there's a number on here I'm going to point out who finished second here in a minute. But we'll go through the odds. Kyle Larson starts us off at a plus 650. He is your favorite. Absolutely no reason why he should not be. Chase Elliott is plus 800 with Denny Hamlin right there with him. Bunch of 10-1 guys. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell all at 10-1. Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, Marty Truex Jr., Joey Logano all at 12. Then a decent jump there, Jeff. Kind of odd. William Byron 18, Kevin Harvick, Alex Bowman 20, Eric Jones, Bubba Wallace 30, Daniel Suarez, Chase Briscoe, and Austin Dillon 40. Ryan Preece, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. round out the top page at 50. But you remember who finished second in that race last year? Austin Dillon. Coming at the end, almost made a pass for the win. Really pretty strong. And third place, who led 18 laps, was on late on that board. Eric Jones at 30-1 finished third, led 18 laps. Really, really strong in that petty, GMS legacy, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think one thing about this track in Fontana is horsepower is a big deal. Horsepower means a lot. And I think we've seen some of the Chevrolets, they've kind of traditionally had maybe a little bit more horsepower than what we've seen out of the Toyotas and out of the Fords from time to time. And I think that's why we saw 3 Chevrolets with Larson, Dillon, and Eric Jones run top 3 last year. And I think you have to look at those guys. We know how strong those Childress and Hendrick engines are. And they really, really figured that out early on, even with the new car last year. Yep. Even though there were struggles throughout the season and everybody had to catch up, the horsepower part, they had that part figured out.
Well, a couple things. Tyler Reddick led the most laps last year, 90 in the RCR number 8.
N8 Chevrolet.
And now Kyle Busch, with how strong he started the season, and he's got a decent number out there. Kyle's at 10-1. That's nothing to slouch at. And another thing I'm looking at, AJ Allmendinger, who we'll get to him on the second page here, but last year Daniel Hemrick ran this race for them and finished 9th in that Kaulig car. Remember, those Kaulig cars look pretty strong at the start of the season. So
Justin Haley had his moments all year long. There were some races he was really good.
So there's a lot of people here that we could be talking about. Let's get to this second page. Brad Keselowski starts it off at 50. Eric Almirola, 50. Ty Gibbs, 80-1. Noah Gragson, 80-1. Chris Buescher and Austin Cindric are right there. And the guy I just mentioned, Justin Haley, AJ Allmendinger at 100-1. I would. It's worth it to me, honestly. As strong as the ECR motors are, and looking at last year's results, I mean, Tyler Reddick leading, 90 laps, the most laps of the race. Daniel Hemrick running so well there. Austin Dillon finishing second. I would be a little afraid to bet. And Dinger is great at California Speedway, don't forget.
Well, you don't really have much to lose. If you just wanted to go throw a couple bucks down on him, I mean, if one of those guys were to win, I mean, you could get an appetizer at Michael's if you were able to win that bet. So, sorry. Wow. I love that restaurant, by the way. So I can't give it a plug. I think it's the best restaurant in Las Vegas. But no, I mean, it's an example of where you can just bet a small amount and you could win a lot. And look, $2. Go on your South Point app. $2.
There it is.
If you're in Nevada.
I mean, I'm looking at some of these numbers and you kind of look across the board. You look at some history. Look, Kyle Larson absolutely is going to be the guy you're going to say, the guy that's going to win it. But Kyle Busch, last 10 races at California Speedway, 7 top 10s, 6 top 5s with 3 wins in the last 10 races. He's 10-1. Joey Logano, 7 top 10s. Even Brad, what have you done for me lately, Brad, has still got 6 top 10s, 5 top 5s. And RFK has had a great 2 weeks here, with what they've started off the season at. So I'm looking at some of these numbers going, I'm not afraid to jump on some of these larger numbers, even though Kyle Larson's tough not to pick. But I do like some of these longer shots.
Well, I think if you pick a Kyle, I think you got a really, really good chance.
Absolutely.
Because I do believe those two guys, I think, are the two to beat. I know that Kyle Busch is not the second favorite behind Kyle Larson in these betting numbers, but in my mind, it's Kyle Larson, then it's Kyle Busch.
I'm with you right there. Let's get into our top threes real quick. And the top threes always, of course, mirror our to win. But still, there's some guys out there that I'm telling you, I like the top 3 number. Kyle Larson starts it off at a plus 180. Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, the 230s. Blaney, Kurt Busch, Christopher Bell, the 300s. Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, Martin Truex, Joey Logano, 350. And that big jump again. And there's guys right here that are worth a lot. I mean, there's good dough to be made here. 500 for Byron, 550 for Harvick and Bowman. Eric Jones and Bubba Wallace at 800. And then double digits. Chase Briscoe, Austin Dillon at 10-1. Daniel Suarez, Ryan Preece, Ricky Stenhouse, 14. And I go back once again. We only have one data point at this racetrack. Last year, this car. Eric Jones was 3rd. Daniel Suarez was 4th. Eric Almirola was 6th. Ricky Stenhouse was 10th.
Well, I mean, and keep in mind, too, a lot of these younger guys, they don't have a lot of races at Fontana. We didn't race there in 2020. No, we did 2020. It was before COVID.
But
I don't think there's one race they didn't run. There was one year they skipped Fontana. So a lot of these younger guys, I mean, we've only been running there one race a year anyway, don't really have a lot of experience. Now, granted, the Kyle Busches, the Denny Hamlins, the Kevin Harvicks, they've got a lot of laps there. The one that jumps out to me the most right up there, though, is Alex Bowman plus 550. Those Hendrick cars are always really, really strong at this racetrack. They've proven it with Larson winning last year. Heck, going all the way back to when this track opened. Jeff Gordon won the first race ever there. Hendrick has been really, really good, and their cars have always been good. Alex Bowman at a plus 550 for a top 3. I kind of like that one.
No, and, I'm trying to go back through the stats here, Alex Bowman. But here, you ready for this? 6 starts, 1 win, 1 top 5, 1 top 10. His 1 top 5 and 10 was a win. So,
but he knows how to get the victory lane here.
He knows how to get there. I look at that Austin Cindric number. Austin Cindric finished 4th in the first stage, led 20 laps, was strong last year in the race. There's some guys for the top 3 money that I do like. Let's get to the second.
Austin Cindric was riding Uncle Mo going into Fontana last year after coming off that Daytona 500.
And he
win
had
last
a
year,
decent
too.
day. He was 12th, finished 12th with a 9th and 7th. Second page, we got Brad Kay starting it off with, I just gave you his stats, 14-1 with Eric Almirola. I just told you about him finishing 6th last year, 14-1. Ty Gibbs, Noah Gregson, Austin Cindric, Chris Boucher all at 20s. Justin Haley and the Dinger at 25-1. I think it's going to be a long shot to get any further, back out of that one. I do like, though, the 25-1 on the Dinger. I don't have him to win.
Yeah, I mean, he's been strong everywhere he goes. I mean, we know he's going to be a factor. Those Kaulig cars, I mean, look, I thought they were a team that, as the season went on, really started to get a little bit more comfortable with the new car. I mean, I think some teams caught on quicker. Like Trackhouse got it really, really fast. Kaulig got it a little bit later on in the season, but they've all had so much more time to work with it. Two now veteran drivers, really. I mean, Justin Haley's been in the deal for 3 years now. So I think Allmendinger or Justin Haley, either one, could be a really good value pick there.
I do, and I don't dislike Eric Almirola. Finishing 6th last year, pretty strong. To me, this is going to boil down to: do you feel that the Chevrolets will have a shot to dominate like they did, or do you think that Fords are going to show back up here?
I guess somebody's got to beat the Chevys to prove it to me, knowing how well Kyle Larson and his success that he's had at this racetrack here. And granted, he won some of those driving for Chip Ganassi, and I believe before he even got into. Well, even before Chevy, maybe he might have gotten in there. I can't even remember. But I just think the Chevys right now, you got to beat them at Fontana.
Well, and last year, Chevy. 4 of the top 5 Chevy. Then you got the Fords, dominated with one Toyota, and that Toyota was Kurt Busch.
And he's not. But Tyler Reddick will be in that car, and Tyler Reddick, who had good success there last year.
90 laps is right there.
And these were the kind of tracks, though, if you remember, that just were tailored to Kurt. Kurt was so good. Michigan, he was always good.
And let's talk about Tyler Reddick being tailored to Tyler Reddick. I mean, here's a guy, Tyler Reddick. We talk so much about Alex or Kyle Larson loving these places. How about Tyler Reddick? He does love these places also. This is his style place. Led it last year, 90 laps. I kind of like Tyler Reddick down in that Toyota.
Well, and I don't think that's a bad pick at all either. I just think his odds are a little bit smaller than. I mean, we're talking about some of the guys with the longer odds. I'm kind of leaning toward the Chevy guys, I think, more.
Well, Reddick's 350 for top 3. I guess that is pretty low there. I don't know. All right. When we come back, we'll get to our head-to-heads, and then, of course, Jeff and I's favorite, the group matchups. And it looks like we only have top manufacturer. We don't have the top guy in the manufacturers this week, so we'll get you our props, too, at the end.
This is Gone Racing, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
Want to rewatch any part of today's show, or any past show for that matter? Check out the Gone Racin podcast. It's free and available now at vsin.com/podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. We give you all the latest news, odds, and everything you need to know to head to the betting counter before each NASCAR Cup race. While you're there, catch up on all your favorite VSiN shows as well. vsin.com/podcasts. Mr. Jeff Motley.
Hey, Wyatt nailed it this time.
Yeah, he's
We're pretty close on this one.
So,
getting better.
Well, I figure by the third segment, we ought to have it down.
We might have it down. Welcome back into Gone Racin'. We Jeff Motley, Brendan Gaughan, sitting here doing Gone Racin'. They already said that.
See, I can't. I did the same thing last week because I couldn't get used to not doing it. Because our very first year, if you'll remember, we were chastised for not introducing ourselves, right? Brian Rogers and Rick Jaffe, who was here back in the day.
That's the three-man desk with our man Ron
we
Flatter.
We had Ron Flatter. Well, I think this was once you and I took over and we no longer had Ron Flatter. That's when we really became professionally unprofessional.
Ron at least gave us a little bit of professionalism.
White didn't make T-shirts with our professionally unprofessional.
We only had the tagline for 2 weeks.
Still waiting for the T-shirts.
They should be in
the gift shop here at the South Point pretty soon.
Well, welcome back in. Let's keep going with the betting here. We got the head-to-head bets at the Pala Casino 400 at California Speedway. And this, now, unlike last week, where although the pit crew used the head-to-heads to their advantage, they at least are not -5 like you and I. They are only -3. You can make some money in head-to-heads, even if you just do a little bit. You can still find your way to the betting counter. So Denny Hamlin is Not a lot of love, honestly, if you look at this. I mean, Denny Hamlin's got some love against a couple guys, but I noticed right off the bat, Kyle Larson is a minus 130 to Denny Hamlin's plus 110. That's a lot of love for Kyle Larson on that screen. A lot of love.
You know, and
Big love.
I'm looking at that, and honestly, I'm not touching any of those. I really don't like any of them because I try to say, okay, who can I find that's on a plus line? I know our Uncle Brent says it's all about cashing checks, so maybe you go take Kyle Larson at minus 140 against Martin Truex Jr., but I don't really like doing that. That's just not my way. The only one up there that even remotely makes me go, is Chase Elliott at a plus 105 against Kyle Busch. But even I don't like that one because I think Kyle Busch has a great chance to win this race more so than Chase Elliott.
See, we talk about doing the don't line all the time. And right now, if you do a don't line on Kyle Larson, you have a chance to maybe do something. I mean, you got a 120 with Truex Jr., a 120 with Christopher Bell, and a 120 with Denny Hamlin, or a 110 with Denny Hamlin. And that's all the Toyota group right there.
Well, and that's the whole thing. Look at all those plus lines that have Toyotas. In fact, you see Chase Elliott is the only plus line up there in a Chevrolet. Every other plus line is a Toyota or a Ford, other than Chase Elliott against Kyle Busch on that list right there. So I think that just tells you how strong the Chevrolets are at this racetrack, which, by the way, always amazes me at how good the Fords are at Michigan. Which is so similar to Fontana, but the Chevrolets are good at Fontana. I mean, what is it? The Fords fall apart when they cross the Rocky Mountains? I don't know what it is, but these Chevys are so strong here.
That is amusing, actually, now that you point that out, and I'd never actually really looked at that. So
that's my Jeff McNugget for the day.
Your Jeff McNugget. I do like the C Bell at 120 with how well he's starting off the season. Another one of those guys. You know, we kind of always lump Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, and Tyler Reddick in that group of guys that love these tracks that have multiple lines that can fan out and run an inch from the wall. And C Bell is one of those guys. C Bell a plus 120. If you do the don't against Kyle Larson, I don't dislike that, Molly. I mean,
do you think that is the dirt track background that those guys have?
Yes.
And not that Reddick has a huge dirt track background, although I believe he should have won the dirt race at Bristol last year.
Well, and he does have a pretty good dirt track background. He comes from so I mean it's
up there in North Central California, and a lot of like Kyle Larson, all those guys.
Let's get to our group matchups, and Motley pointed out that Group A has a guy we haven't seen in Group A in a long time. You got Kyle Larson, your favorite, at plus 230. Denny Hamlin at 265. Martin Truex Jr. and C-Bell at 300. Motley said, Martin Truex Jr. Group A?
I'm just saying it's amazing what a win in an exhibition race on a quarter mile will do for you. I tell you, Kyle Larson plus 230 in this group. And again, I know I sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, and it's just you can play it over and over again. He's the only Chevy in Group A. Well, I mean, and he's 230. Look, I'd have made him about plus 170 in this group.
And I was just going to say, he's only plus 180 for a top three. He's plus 650 for the win, or plus 230 in the group. And it is against the three Toyotas. I mean, the top Toyota last year we just said was Kurt Busch in 8th. You know what I mean? And when I look down the board at anybody that led laps, no, not one Toyota led laps in the race last year. So I agree. I think that we normally stay away from Group A. You and I always kind of go, that's a kind of a tough one to go to a lot. But 230, Kyle Larson, Group A, 3 Toyotas, I'm jumping all over that. The Westgate, sometimes the Westgate doesn't quite get their homework. As you know, when we found some bets that you got to learn. Remember, we've always said that. Shop where you're going to bet. You got to find the best odd, the best number. Sometimes you can find a nugget like that where the 3 Toyotas, not good at California, against one Chevy, the guy that's pretty strong.
No, absolutely. I love Kyle Larson in this group. I think I've said it enough. I think that's a great opportunity right there. If that car doesn't have a mechanical failure or get caught up in some accident in the race or something, I think he's one of the 2-3 guys to beat to win the race, and I don't think the other 3 guys in this group are the real title contenders here.
Well, let's jump on into Group B, and Group B starts off with Kyle Busch in that new Chevrolet for him at plus 230, Ryan Blaney 285, Ross Chastain and Chase Elliott 290s. I'm liking favorites right now. Kyle Busch, man on a mission to start this season, and he's going to get it done.
Well, I agree with that. I do like Kyle Busch in this group. Now, I know I've said this before on this show. They're the things that make me go, and here's something that makes me go, Chase Elliott is plus 800 to win the race.
Yes.
Kyle Busch is 10-1 to win the race.
But in the
However,
groups-
in the head-to-head, Kyle is favored over Chase Elliott. And then look at this disparity right here. Kyle Busch a plus 230 all the way down to a plus 290 for Chase Elliott. So I find that very interesting. I mean, I think, honestly, even though I do think Kyle Busch is the best one in this group right here, I think Chase Elliott at plus 290 is a pretty good value here.
I don't disagree, especially going off of what you're saying. Then once again, the odds to win the race come from DraftKings. Our group matchups are coming from the Westgate, the Superbook. So you got to find out where you're shopping, what you're looking for. But Chase Elliott is the second favorite to win the race at plus 800, but he's the dog in Group B. You got a 290 there. Might not be a bad one to take, but I like the top and tail in this one. I like Kyle Busch. I like Chase Elliott. I think both those Chevys are strong, but Kyle Busch has started this season off performing like a man on a mission, going to statistically his best track. I like Kyle Busch.
And, Kyle has a flair for the dramatic. Knowing it's going to be the last race on this track, I'm sure that's
West
kind
Coaster,
of a big deal.
not his
West
home track,
Coaster.
but, we used to all come to the West Coast thinking all these tracks are ours.
It's kind of like Martin Truex Jr. when he's east of the Mississippi. All of them are his home track. It's like you come out here west, it's all their home tracks. It's kind of the same situation.
That joke never gets old either, by the way. You sure this isn't a Martin Truex home track somehow?
I think the line of demarcation is the Mississippi River.
Yeah, but didn't we call like Kansas? Well, Kansas, I guess Kansas.
Maybe one there or something.
All right. Anyway, Wyatt just shaking his head going, yeah, professionally.
I was going to say, were we considering the Homestead and Daytona hometown tracks for him?
Absolutely.
Well, why not?
It's east of the Mississippi.
Okay.
It was a running joke for years. It seemed like every track the announcer would say, well, this is Martin Truex home track. We go to Watkins Glen, or we go to New Hampshire, we go to Dover. Just because it was like north of the Mason-Dixon line, and he was from New Jersey and grew up right in the middle of all of them, it was his home track. Well, then somehow Richmond became his home track because Denny Hamlin wasn't racing one week or something.
It's crazy. All right, let's get to Group C. Group C leads off with our reigning Cup Series champion, Joey Logano at plus 215. Then you got William Byron, 295, Tyler Reddick, 295, Kevin Harvick, 295. What I see here is William Byron, once again, the Chevy versus a Ford, and two Fords and a Toyota. William Byron in this race last year, Motley, I don't know if you remember, started out super strong, led 16 laps, third in stage one, ninth, and then him and Kyle Larson, remember, got into the wreck with like 2 to go. There were like 20 to go or something. They got into a wreck with each other.
Well, it was kind of a little controversy because Larson kind of roughed him up, and Larson ended up, like I said, Byron got the worst of it, I believe.
Yeah, because he finished 39th, 34th in the race. But I do like that 295 for William Byron. The only thing that has me spooked there a little bit, that Tyler Reddick number, but I'll go off of what we've talked about with the Toyotas.
I like my Chevy drivers.
And so do I. Let's get to Group D before we go to break, and that's Daniel Suarez at 255, Bubba Wallace 255, Austin Dillon 290, Chase Briscoe 290. And again, I'm leading the Chevy Brigade here, but the only problem I have is Daniel Suarez fourth, Austin Dillon third, and Suarez was strong last year also, but the 290 lends me towards a little more return if I'm splitting a hair.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. But I do kind of put it down between Dillon and Suarez right here, and I'm kind of leaning Dillon just because there's more value in Austin Dillon. So yeah, I'm with you on that one.
And
Brendan.
Chase Briscoe was good last year. Like I said, he led a bunch of laps, was strong, was probably the strongest Ford, honestly, and I can't remember what happened to him. But Dillon, that second place finish kind of rattles off for me there. All right, guys, when we come back, we'll finish up Groups E and F, get you to our manufacturer props and our picks when we return.
This is Gone Racin, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
And we are back on Gone Racin, and that was a perfect count, by the way, by Wyatt on that one. I wasn't even going to pause. I was just going to go on the count, and it worked.
He's the man.
He's getting it.
Yep, he's getting
You know
it.
what?
It's a proud moment for me today. I think I should just retire for the rest of the day.
He's wearing a Michigan. The UNLV, Rebel
Well,
guy is wearing.
my dad went to Michigan, so I have a lot of Michigan, influence.
He claimed family. I'll have to leave it alone. We have to might do some digging on that Family Channel. I mean, he could.
You know, it's like, I don't know, Michigan, Ohio State's one of those games I think that I'd root for a power outage. I just don't really care for either one of them.
No, I just know that if you say Michigan, I'm going to say go Buckeyes, and if you say go Ohio, I'm going to say go Wolverines. I got no dog in the fight. So let's get back as we digress to what we do on the show, which is racing, and we are in Group E in our group matchups, which of course everybody knows this is our favorite stuff, and I love these two groups at the end here. We got Eric Jones leading the way at Group E at 265. We got Ryan Preece and Ty Gibbs tied at 265. Brad Kay at 290. I can tell you right now who is salivating behind that glass with the plus 290, but I'm going to look at that plus 265 with Eric Jones finishing third here last year, second in both stages, by the way, led 18 laps. That team is stronger this year than they were last year. I like Eric Jones. As I'm picking favorites right now. I can't believe I'm looking at all these favorites going, man, I am loving the favorites.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think if I'm not going to touch this group, to me, I'm a little nervous about this one. But if I were going to pick this group, it would be Eric Jones. And don't ask me really why I'm nervous, because really I do think Eric Jones is the guy that should win this group. It's possible that Wyatt could get overruled by Isaiah and not let him pick Brad Keselowski. I think Isaiah has like veto power over
Isaiah's
like a couple
not
picks.
here this week.
Isaiah's not here.
But the rule is Brad has to get a top 10. Brad didn't get a top 10 at the 500, so I have to wait for him to get a top 10 and pick him again.
Led most laps. Come on, that didn't get you anything.
I mean, and it shouldn't count for Daytona, because you can be the best guy out there and end up on your lid. Brendan was leading the race at Talladega one year and ended up on his lid.
As Moody said, I've won the Talladega and Daytona 497 a bunch of times. Listen, Eric Jones, he's got a 7th, a 3rd, and a 10th in his 5 races, and a 12th in the other one. So, I mean, Eric Jones strong. Love me some Eric Jones in this one. This is one of his favorite tracks.
You might have just talked me into that one.
Going back, I like that Eric Jones.
I think I talked myself into it, too.
Let's go to Group F, and our main man is back in Group F, which I cannot believe. Austin Cindric is 260. The Dinger at 275 with Buescher and Gregson all tied there. Chris Buescher back in Group F. What does the man have to do to get himself out of Group F at the Westgate? Come on, boys.
And last week, he finished 4th in the Daytona 500, and he didn't even win his group.
Buescher is not a Group F guy.
No.
Even though he's in the Ford, I'm liking Buescher in Group F just because that's awesome. But listen, that Dinger sits right there, and that Dinger number, it sits right there with that Chevrolet thing we've been talking about. But it's Chris Buescher, Group F. Who's cashed more tickets on this show for us?
Yeah, but he's not going to do it at Fontana. I'm going all in on the Chevys. I'm all in on Chevrolets. I'm not picking anybody that's not driving a Chevrolet this week.
I might have to just
mark that down. Go ahead. You take Buescher. We'll do our side bet on Buescher and Allmendinger.
No, but look. Dinger is, to me, odds on the favorite at 275, but just Chris Buescher, how strong he's been running the last year and a half in Group F again. I mean, give him some respect. What's the guy got to do to get pulled out of Group F? All right, our manufacturer prop, the only ones we got this weekend. Chevy, of course, as Jeff and I have been kind of harping on this whole episode. The heavy favorite at plus 110, Toyota plus 220, Ford plus 240. I'm not sure I agree with that at all.
I probably would flip-flop those two.
I would too, but in the end, I still think Chevrolet is going to dominate this. So very, very difficult for me to say to jump off that 110, and that is not enough for me to make a bet. I mean, that's a head-to-head bet with 3 people. I mean, I don't like it that much. Let's talk about the championship odds for this year, because we've had one race in, Jeff. The biggest, of course, mover we've seen, Ricky Stenhouse, went to 40-1. We talked about that at the top of the show. Still not a lot of movement yet. I think you'll see a lot of these guys on the second side of this page, if you're watching on the podcast, will be coming down once they start winning. But it's still too early right now for us to remember futures, guys. This is where you hedge your bet. Take a peek at these. We're not going to talk a lot of time about it right now. We want to get to our picks, but pay attention to your futures. Jump on these guys early, because you know that their odds will change.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd say is I think anybody below Kevin Harvick right now at 18-1, if they win a race, you won't get those odds the rest of the year.
Absolutely. It's going to drop to teens immediately. So, all right, let's talk about how we did last week. Like we said.
Do we have to?
Well, listen, with one lap to go, we were all sitting there sitting pretty.
I was a rich man with one lap
I had
to go.
2 of the top 3. We had things going well for us all. And then, for literally and figuratively, the wheels fell off. But the one winner, Buescher, once again, who cashed a ticket. Chris Buescher versus Ryan Preece. Won 2 units for the pit crew. So they are in the lead with the -2, where me and Jeff are sitting there already and a big goose egg on the board. So, since we go off of losers first, and I was the giant loser last year, it will be me leading off the show.
I'm glad at least you break the tiebreaker on this.
Yeah, that's the way to break it. It's easy. I sucked last year. I'm going to do something I don't really do. I'm going to the race winner category, and I just look, Kyle Larson. I can't just leave Kyle Larson out there. I think he's too strong. Last race, home track, a lot of emotion. The Chevrolet connection, how well he's done. I'm picking Kyle Larson to win. Then I'm sticking in the group matchups for the rest of mine. I'm going to go Group B, Kyle Busch, the favorite at 230. I'm going to go Byron at 295 in Group C. Was too strong there last year. I'm going to go Austin Dillon in Group D at plus 290. We've already talked about it. And then I am going to put Chris Buescher. Cashes too many tickets. Even though I talked about the dinger and how good I think he's going to do, give it to me, Chris Buescher. Jeff Motley, how say you?
Well, I'm going to agree with you probably on a couple, and then I might disagree with you on one.
That's
okay. But I have decided to stick with all Chevys. I'm going to pick a top three. I'm going to take Kyle Busch at plus 300 for a top three. I like Kyle there. And then the rest of my picks are going to be in the groups. I'm going Kyle Larson in Group A at a plus 230. I'm in agreement with you on William Byron in Group C. I'm also going no, I'm not going with you on the other ones. I'm going Eric Jones, Group B. You talked me into that, by the way, so I'll give you credit for that. And then you and I are going to go head-to-head in Group F. I'm going to go with the dinger while you're going with our man Chris Buescher.
I scratched out my Eric Jones to give the Chris Buescher to go head-to-head.
And I scrapped out my Austin Dillon to take Eric Jones. So there we go.
This is gonna be the matchup of the week right here. Group F, who's going to win? For the pit crew picks, we're going with a long shot here to start off. Daniel Suarez to finish top three, 14-1. Suarez had a good run last year.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Truex over Kyle Larson. I'm going to bank on him, that hot start at the Coliseum in Daytona before he wrecked. Chase Elliott to win Group B at plus 290. Tyler Reddick to win Group C at plus 295. And I'm liking the Eric Jones pick to win Group E at plus 265.
So he's going with the Toyota. We got a bunch of head-to-heads here. Me and you were going head-to-head with him on the Tyler Reddick pick. You got him. I'm a head-to-head with him with the Chase Elliott versus Kyle Busch. We're together on the Eric Jones pick there. But I tell you, I think if you're Truex against Larson, Truex should be getting about a plus 180 against Kyle Larson. I just think plus 120 is way too low. They have Kyle at minus 140, so they've kind of given you the spread on the other side. I guess that's the other way around, the other side. Well, there we go, guys. There's our picks for today. I mean, Motley, we've left ourselves a bunch of time here to pontificate. Pontificate, can it be our word? Well, we can't use. We had no way to use the word penultimate this week. And we didn't use crapshoot. That is your favorite.
We didn't use crapshoot because we had that last week.
But we didn't use it last week.
I don't even think we used it last week.
But you guys were great.
I danced my way around calling it a crapshoot.
I think maybe we could just say, look, okay, we're glad there's going to be a race this weekend in Fontana, but what we're really excited about is that we're coming here to our home, Las Vegas, the next week, the Pennzoil 400, triple header. By the way, we're going to have a hauler parade on Thursday night. The haulers are going to be right here at the South Point Hotel where we do our show. They're going to be right across the street, go down Las Vegas Boulevard, and then we got 3 nights of racing, a truck race on Friday, Xfinity on Saturday. And
do you have the West race this year?
No West race. No, ARCA race will run in the fall. That'll be and then on Saturday, right after the Xfinity race, over at the little bull ring, we're going to have a Bandolero and Legends race, and Brexton Busch is going to make his West Coast Bandolero debut. So Kyle is going to have to hustle because Kyle Busch, by the way, is running all 3 races.
He loves doing that. He loves doing that in Vegas. They are. I forgot about that. This is the debut of the West Coast debut of Brexton Busch. Poor kid. He's what is he? 8?
8.
And he's got all this pressure on him already. The Speedway is advertising Brexton Busch racing.
Okay, this is where I say on the air, his dad did say, hey, can you put a race together for us?
I mean, listen, they're still advertising. I think it's kind of cool. Actually, what's funny is you're going to kill me for this. I am going to only be able to be there for your Friday night truck race.
You're not coming. You're not being forced to be in the booth on Sunday?
No, my son's racing. We got to be in Havasu.
I guess I don't need to bring you a parking pass next week.
No, I still need a parking pass because I got something Friday, and you never know what's going to happen.
You need an infield parking pass next week, then. All right, we're discussing business on the air here, anyway, so there we go,
guys. There's our episode for the Pala Casino 400.
But last race at Fontana.
Last race
on
Fontana
on this 2-mile track.
This one.
Opened in what 97?
97. This is the only race that I would have come out of retirement for. Kind of bummed. This is was one of my favorite tracks. Wyatt, good luck to your Lady Rebs tonight. Top 23 team, top 25 in the country.
24th in the country.
There we go. So keep that going, Lady Rebs. And we'll see you guys next week when we break down this one and talk about all things Pennzoil 400 in Vegas. Thanks for joining us, guys.